Malik had worked at La Belle Cuisine, one of the city's top restaurants, for almost a decade. Starting as a dishwasher, he'd climbed his way up through dedication, passion, and an undeniable talent for flavors. Over time, he'd become the restaurant's head chef, winning over patrons with his unique style and fusion dishes that blended classic techniques with bold flavors. Malik was known for bringing warmth and heart to the kitchen, a quality that resonated with the restaurant's clientele. But things took a sharp turn when a new manager, Mark, was hired to oversee operations. Mark had a reputation for running a tight ship and making swift, often harsh decisions to increase efficiency. From the start, Mark seemed uneasy around Malik, despite the chef's experience and popularity with customers. Malik tried his best to stay on Mark's good side, focusing on his work, keeping his head down, and making sure the kitchen ran like a well-oiled machine. One evening, Malik noticed Mark hovering near the kitchen door, watching him with a hard look. It wasn't the first time Mark had observed him so intently, and Malik felt uneasy. Later, Mark approached him in the hallway as he was heading out for a break. "Malik, we need to talk," Mark said, his voice cold and detached. Malik nodded, feeling a twinge of concern. "Of course. What's going on?" Without any preamble, Mark replied, "You're being let go." Effective immediately. Malik was stunned. "Let go? Why? I've done everything this restaurant has asked of me and more." Mark shrugged, maintaining a dismissive tone. "It's just a business decision. We're moving in a different direction, and we need fresh faces. Nothing personal." It felt incredibly personal to Malik, though. His entire career, his love for cooking, and his reputation were bound to La Belle Cuisine. To be dismissed without any warning or reason felt like a betrayal. The unfairness stung, and Malik struggled to understand why he was being forced out after years of loyalty and hard work. He gathered his things and walked out of the restaurant, his heart heavy with disappointment. That night, he thought back to the journey that had brought him to this city and how he'd poured his soul into his work. He'd always believed that hard work and talent would bring success, but now it felt like none of that mattered. For the first time in years, Malik felt lost. But as the days passed, Malik's initial pain and frustration slowly transformed into resolve. He wasn't ready to give up on his dreams just because one person didn't see his value. If anything, the experience ignited a new fire within him. He realized that he no longer wanted to work under someone who didn't respect his craft. Instead, he wanted to build something of his own, where his talent and creativity could flourish. With a small amount of savings and support from close friends, Malik decided to start a catering service. He called it Flavors of Malik, and his goal was to bring his unique culinary style directly to people's events, homes, and gatherings. Malik spent hours planning menus, experimenting with recipes, and transforming his small kitchen into a culinary laboratory. The journey wasn't easy. At first, Malik struggled to attract clients. Without the reputation of La Belle Cuisine behind him, he had to work twice as hard to prove himself. He spent long nights delivering food, cooking in cramped spaces, and managing every detail on his own. But with each event, Malik's confidence grew, and so did his clientele. Word began to spread. People who tasted his food raved about the originality, the layers of flavors, and the heart that went into every dish. Malik poured his soul into his work, and his clients felt it. Soon, Flavors of Malik became known for offering more than just food. It was an experience. Malik's dishes told stories, celebrated cultures, and brought people together in ways they hadn't expected. His business began to thrive, and the recognition he'd always dreamed of started to materialize. Local newspapers wrote features about him, and his story of resilience inspired people across the community. But the biggest surprise came when Malik received a call from Sarah Jenkins, a renowned food critic known for uncovering hidden culinary gems. She'd heard about his work and wanted to meet with him. When they met, Sarah was immediately captivated by Malik's story and his passion. After tasting his food, she was convinced he had something special. "You have an incredible gift, Malik," she said. "I'd like to feature you in my column as one of the city's top emerging chefs." Malik was stunned. A feature in her column could be the boost his business needed to reach new heights. He graciously accepted her offer, pouring his gratitude and excitement into preparing a menu that would reflect everything he'd worked for. When the article was published, it went viral. Malik's story of being fired and rising from adversity resonated deeply with readers, and soon his business was flooded with requests for bookings. As Malik's calendar filled with high-profile events and private bookings, he couldn't help but feel that he'd finally found his path. He'd created something entirely his own, something that allowed him to share his love for cooking on his own terms. And even though it had taken pain and loss to get there, he was grateful for the journey. Malik had learned that setbacks didn't define him. They were simply stepping stones towards something greater. One day, while Malik was setting up for an event at a grand ballroom, he got a call from an organizer of an exclusive culinary showcase, a prestigious event where only the best chefs in the city were invited to present their work. The organizer explained that they had a last-minute opening and that Malik had been recommended by Sarah Jenkins herself. "I'd be honored to attend," Malik replied, hardly believing his luck. But as he prepared for the event, a memory crept into his mind. The image of Mark, his former manager, dismissing him so callously. Malik pushed the thought aside, focusing on the opportunity ahead. He wasn't attending to prove anything to Mark or anyone else. He was there because he'd earned his place, because his journey had made him a chef who could stand among the city's finest. Little did he know that fate had a surprise in store. The night of the culinary showcase arrived, and Malik felt a mixture of excitement and nerves as he entered the lavish venue. It was an elite event attended by food critics, journalists, and influential figures from across the culinary world. Each chef had a station where they'd present a dish that encapsulated their unique style, and Malik had prepared something truly special, a fusion of classic French techniques with bold Afro-Caribbean flavors that honored his heritage. As he set up his station, Malik noticed chefs he had admired for years and had only dreamed of meeting. He felt a surge of pride. It hadn't been an easy road to get here, but he had carved his own path. The journey had given him strength and taught him the value of perseverance. The event kicked off, and guests began to sample the chef's creations, moving from one station to the next. Malik's table quickly became a crowd favorite. People were drawn in by the vibrant presentation and stayed for the rich, layered flavors. Every bite was crafted with intention, showcasing Malik's passion and the depth of his culinary skill. As the evening progressed, he received countless compliments, nods of approval, and expressions of delight from guests savoring his dish. Then, as Malik was explaining the inspiration behind his dish to a small group, a familiar voice interrupted him. "Malik, is that you?" He turned and found himself face to face with Mark, his former manager. Mark looked as surprised as he was uncomfortable, clearly not expecting to see Malik at such a high-profile event. Malik felt a rush of conflicting emotions, anger, bitterness, and a sense of vindication. But instead of dwelling on the past, he maintained his composure and offered a polite smile. "Yes, it's me," Malik replied calmly. "Good to see you, Mark." Mark cleared his throat, his gaze flickering around as if searching for a way out. "I didn't realize you'd be here," he stammered. "I mean, I heard about your catering business, but I didn't know you were doing so well." Malik smiled, but it was a smile born of resilience and the knowledge that he'd succeeded despite the obstacles. "I'm here because I worked hard and believed in myself. Sometimes being let go is just a push in the right direction." Mark shifted uncomfortably, his face slightly flushed. Malik could see the regret etched in his former manager's expression, but he wasn't interested in hearing apologies. He had come too far to let one person's actions define him. "I see," Mark replied, looking down, visibly uncomfortable. "Well, good luck, Malik. You deserve it." With that, Mark shuffled away, and Malik felt a weight lift off his shoulders. The encounter reminded him of how far he'd come, not only in his career, but also in his mindset. He no longer needed validation from anyone, especially not from someone who hadn't recognized his worth. His success spoke for itself, and the joy he felt sharing his food with people who appreciated it was more rewarding than any acknowledgement from his past. The evening continued, and as the event neared its conclusion, Sarah Jenkins, the renowned food critic who had initially put Malik's name on the map, approached him with a warm smile. "Malik, I have a proposal for you," she began. "How would you feel about hosting a pop-up restaurant? just a limited engagement, but it would be your own space, your menu. I think the city needs to see more of what you have to offer. Malik was taken aback. A pop-up restaurant? It was a dream come true, an opportunity to create a dining experience entirely his own, where every detail would reflect his style and vision. He took a deep breath, nodding with enthusiasm. I would love that, Sarah. Thank you for believing in me. Over the next few months, Malik poured his heart and soul into planning the pop-up. He rented a small space, designed a menu that paid homage to his roots, and curated an ambiance that felt like a celebration of culture and community. As word spread, reservations for the pop-up sold out weeks in advance, and the space became a destination for food enthusiasts and critics alike. On opening night, the pop-up was filled with energy, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. Malik moved through the kitchen with ease, working with a team he had carefully selected, people who shared his passion and dedication. Every dish that left the kitchen carried his story, his journey, and his gratitude for the people who had supported him along the way. Among the guests that evening were familiar faces, including some former colleagues from La Belle Cuisine. Malik saw Mark sitting at a table in the corner, looking out of place but clearly eager to taste what he'd helped dismiss months ago. Malik decided to approach him, feeling a sense of closure that he hadn't expected. Mark, he greeted, extending a hand with genuine warmth. I didn't expect to see you here. Mark shook Malik's hand, offering a nervous smile. Well, I heard a lot about this place, and I couldn't resist. I wanted to see for myself what everyone's been raving about. Congratulations, Malik. You've built something truly special here. Malik nodded, accepting the compliment with grace. He no longer harbored resentment or anger. Instead, he felt a profound sense of peace. He had proven to himself that he could overcome any obstacle, and that was all the validation he needed. The success of the pop-up led to new opportunities. Malik was approached by investors who wanted to back him in opening a permanent restaurant. After careful consideration, he accepted their support, knowing he could create a lasting space that would continue to inspire, celebrate diversity, and showcase the power of resilience. A year later, Malik stood at the grand opening of his very own restaurant. The sign above the door read Malik's Table, a place where people from all walks of life could come together, share a meal, and experience the flavors and stories that made his cuisine unique. Malik's journey from dishwasher to celebrated chef, from being fired to owning his own restaurant, had taught him the value of perseverance, passion, and staying true to oneself. As he welcomed guests to Malik's Table that night, he felt a surge of gratitude for everyone who had been part of his journey, the friends who had supported him, the clients who had believed in him, and even the challenges that had forced him to grow. Malik had turned adversity into success, proving that no setback could hold him back as long as he stayed committed to his dreams. And as he looked around at the bustling restaurant filled with laughter, joy, and the clinking of glasses, he knew that he had truly arrived.